very wrong what's happening down at the border, and I want our legislators to bring it to a stop, period. This is wrong.
Yay! Thank you.
Join me, please. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. One more time. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of deportees. We are a land of deportees, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of deportees, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Keep the families together. Keep our families together. And we are singing, singing for their lives. Keep the families together. And we are singing, singing for their lives.
Well, this is going to be very fast, and I know that all of you know what the basic situation is, why you're here today. And I just wanted to say a couple of things. When you speak with people and speak with the congressional representatives that we're talking to, the first thing is we have to challenge immediately this zero tolerance language, because zero tolerance implies that we are not tolerating people breaking the law. And that is absolutely BS, because people are trying to get legal asylum. It's been something that's been going on forever. So that's just one thing absolutely needs to be said. Anytime anyone talks about zero tolerance, that has to be absolutely contradicted. And another thing that people might or might not know is that these children who are being ripped from their families are being put in not only dead Walmarts and not only, quote, I don't know what they call them, not detention is what they said in the Washington Post today, but mental hospitals now, and being forcibly medicated in mental hospitals. And that came out, that was on NPR, which is no friend of the left, 2 days ago. So if you want to call about something really outrageous, that is just unbelievable. And that's happening right now. They're also running out of space and talking about throwing these young children onto military bases. So, this is just unacceptable. And what our asks are here, and I want to thank all of you for being here, and I love having our signs so we can reach people, so I don't want to take any more of our time than needed. But what we want people to be doing is calling your congressional delegation, whether you live in Vermont, New Hampshire, or Massachusetts, and telling them we need a presence down at the border in McAllen, Texas, and the other border points where they're separating families, and these need to be people who are willing to witness this and spread it. Take photos, write about it, and get out there. And if you're in Congress, if you're a senator or a House member, people might actually listen to what you have to say. If I go down there, I doubt it. But if they do, there's actually some kind of, it's a real thing. And what our goal is their goal is to dismantle the asylum program. Their goal is to dismantle a way that people have come into the United States forever. And their reason for their goal, which is very clear, is ethnic cleansing. They don't want brown-skinned people coming into the country. And this is as unacceptable as anything that's ever happened. It's as bad as the other types of family separation we've had here, which is what? Native Americans whose families were separated, and the slave trade. I mean, this is where the United States has had family separation in the past, and this cannot happen again. So we have a couple of speakers here. If anybody that doesn't know me, I'm Nancy Browse, and I wanted to say one more thing, which is that we are planning future actions, and one of them, which a lot of you have small children and might be able to help with, is we're thinking about trying to get an empty shoes traveling exhibit considering maybe representing the number of children who have been separated from their families since this policy went in the beginning of May. And ideally, maybe the first event might be at the State House, but so what we need is crummy children's shoes. And you can bring them to everyone's books because we're going to need a couple of thousand pairs of children's shoes for this. But I think it will be very effective visually. And please come to me, come to Ann Zimmerman or Leslie if you have other ideas of things that we can do, because the shoes seem to be the thing that came to me as a really effective visual that people will really relate to. And if we start at the State House, we could then move it to a couple of different places. So thank you all for being here, and you'll be hearing from us again, because until this stops, we're not stopping. So Amy Conquas is going to say a couple of things. You work for the ACLU, yeah? No?
Rights and Democracy.
Rights and Democracy.
I'm a volunteer for the ACLU in the region.
Okay, she works for Rights and Democracy and volunteers for the ACLU. So Jamie's just going to tell us sort of a little bit about the legal fight against what's going on here.
And thank you.
Thank you, all of you, for being here. Yay, all of you.
So, Nancy called me and asked that I would say a couple things, and my name's Jamie Contois. I'm with the ACLU People Power Windham County chapter that's been active in this region for over a year. And I also am now working with Rights and Democracy, which is active in Vermont and New Hampshire. And so we've been doing a lot of work, and we have our upcoming ACLU meeting on Saturday, 4 o'clock up on Solar Hill, this coming Saturday, the 16th. And we've been doing a lot of work around showing up for vulnerable populations in our country that are being targeted by this administration with illegal activity. And so one of the things that I wanted to name was the ACLU case, and then name the 3 women that are in a lot of the stories that you've been reading, and then also just name what's on the front page of the New York Times today, which is the upcoming vote on immigration next week. And so I will try to do it in 5 minutes. I will do speed talk. So I just want to name that the ACLU on March 9th, I believe. Excuse me.
I want some fish.
Okay, great. Okay, so on March 9th, There was an ACLU lawsuit filed in the Southern District of California, and there are 2 women who are signed on amongst, I don't understand if it's hundreds and hundreds, but they've named 2 specific women. They refer to them as Mrs. L and this is my family. I'd ask them to come up, but it might be too much. This is about our babies and about staying with our babies and showing up for other people to stay with their babies. But if you need to go, you can go.
Can I tell you something?
In a minute. So anyways, the 2 women they name in the case are a woman fleeing from the Congo, Mrs. L. She arrived at the port of entry, which is the thing they're saying people aren't doing. They arrive at the port of entry, and she asked for asylum with her 6-year-old daughter, despite having, as the article says, committed no crime and having followed all the correct protocols. And these are the lies the administration is spreading. 4 days later, her daughter was taken from her and sent to a facility in Chicago. Mrs. L was sent to an immigration detention center. The mother and daughter were kept apart by 2,000 miles for more than 4 months. Marion G is an asylum seeker from Honduras, had a similar experience. After presenting herself at a port of entry, Border Patrol agents took away her 18-month-old. She did not see her 18-month-old for 2 months. There's also a case of Mrs. C. She was an asylum seeker who was prosecuted for entering the country. She served her 25-day criminal misdemeanor sentence, and she was expected to be reunited with her 14-year-old who had been cruelly taken from her. She was forced to wait more than 8 months after serving her sentence to be reunited with her son. So it's time for us to stand up and call in our delegation. We've got Annie McLean Custer across the river. She's the congresswoman from pretty much the entire state except for the seacoast. And she really waffles on this stuff, guys. So all of your friends who live in New Hampshire, we've got to be calling them and asking them to stand up and call Annie McLean Custer. And I echo Nancy's sentiment that we need our own delegation to be heading down and to say, not on our watch. Can we say it?
Not on our watch!
One more time.
Not on our watch!
We have Charlotte who's going first. Okay. Who's going to speak briefly about the faith community and this issue. I just want people to notice that Jeff and Randy at the Commons featured this issue in Voices this week, and people, I have one story, but there's others, and it's very, very well done. And if people have specifics that they want to read about, we have some issues at the Commons right here, so feel free to take it. Thank you, Charlotte.
Hi all. My name's Charlotte Gifford. I'm a deacon at the Westminster West Congregational Church up in Westminster West. Nancy had asked our pastor Susie to speak today and she could not for family health reasons. I'm only speaking as one member of a faith community, but I just want to say that it is imperative, it is a moral imperative that our faith communities stand up and take notice and take action. This is an abomination. This is a shame. It is horrendous. And we have seen this before. We have seen too many times in many faith traditions where those who have stood by on the sidelines, silent, has said after the fact, I wish I'd done something. So I think we have to step forward now and step up now. I agree we need to contact our representatives and demand that they take witness as well. But again, as one person of faith, this is not what the divine has in mind for humankind. This is not the loving relationship between people, and ripping families apart is a sin. It is appalling, and it cannot be tolerated. And I thank you.
Anne is going to be our final speaker, and then we'll have another song, and then we're done. Then we can hold some more signs and get the word out a little more. Thank you all so much for being here.
So I'm actually going to skip reading the statement from the American Association of Pediatrics, but you can find it online if you want to. And it's what we all know, the toxic stress that is permanently damaging to children's brains, and that is the trauma that we're inflicting on these families. Some of the organizers of a central group called Keep Families Together wanted us, if we could, to feel some solidarity with those families. And so when you got here, we handed out a yellow wristband. Families, parents who are being put in detention sometimes have a yellow wristband on, and that's how they know that there's somebody whose kids have been taken away from them. So that's why you have this on. So I'm going to call out a list of questions, and if the answer applies to you, put your fist in the air and keep it in the air as I continue calling out questions. And then when we're done with that, we're going to have, I don't want to spend too long being silent because we actually need to be loud, but a moment of silence can be kind of powerful, so I'm going to count to about 30 seconds. And then we'll go back out near the street and make some noise. So, please raise your fist in the air if you've ever been separated from or lost your sibling. Okay? Please raise your fist in the air if you've ever been separated or lost your grandparent. Please raise your fist in the air if you've ever separated from your friend, your spouse, or your lover.
Which is everybody.
Please raise your fist in the air if you've ever been separated from your parent by accident. Please raise your fist if you've ever been separated from a child. Can all the children raise their fists? Can all the fathers raise their fists? Can all the mothers raise their fist? Anyone who's ever been a child, raise your fist. So, everyone has their fist in the air. We're in solidarity with people who, through no fault of their own, are fleeing from violence and trauma and having more violence and trauma being inflicted on them at our border. Let's have 30 seconds to ponder that. So, the organizers actually recommended 90 seconds, and I don't think I could keep it together for 3 times that. And I know that the way things are right now is causing our hearts to be ripped out of our, and we are being torn in a lot of directions with like the day-to-day onslaught from what's going on in Washington. But it's so important that we keep this from becoming the new normal. So, as Nancy mentioned, we have a lot of asks. If you haven't put your name on our sign up, please do, so we can keep in touch about what might be happening further down the road so you can participate in those actions. And please keep sharing news with families, especially if they live in other kinds of areas than this. Please do call and write and, tell them thank you for speaking up and thank you for sponsoring legislation, but it's not enough. We have postcards that are addressed over here. Please keep calling. When we called, they started to speak up. When we called, they started to co-sponsor the legislation. We need to tell them, get down to the border. We need to tell them to, ask for investigations, demand investigations, and we need, it's all of us together that are going to bring an end to this. So let's go out to the road and make some noise. Oh, I'm sorry.
Also, I brought lists of phone numbers and contact if you want extra ones.
Robin brought lists of phone numbers and contacts.
If you need extra ones to take to your family and friends, or you want to mail them to someone. And I also have dozens of more of the pre-addressed postcards if you want to take those for your friends and family. And I will be with my husband, the man of the hat. You can find us and we'll give them to you.
Did people hear that? Okay.
So
wonderful.
one last thing is, if you are in a position to be making donations, there are organizations working to help the people who have no legal representation, or children who are on their own, who have been made to be on their own, who didn't come here on their own, and children who were on their own. And I just quickly wrote down some of them and their contact information over here. So that's the last thing. And let's go stand out in the street and be visible. Thank you, everybody.
Another song?
Freedom! Oh, freedom! And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. No more separation.
We're just sharing.
Deportation over me, and before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be
on the back there's
I'm from Putney, Vermont, and when I have ancestors that came on a leaky little boat to Cape Cod called the Mayflower, and they had no papers, and they stayed together, and so all these generations later, I believe that this country should be embracing all people who are seeking asylum, and I'm absolutely appalled at the current policies and regime, and the fact that children and families are being incarcerated, and I'm very, that's it.
I'm also from Putney, Vermont. My ancestors came over by ship. Some of my ancestors died on the way. It's a very risky, very hard thing to do, to leave your own country to seek safety elsewhere. And they should be receiving safety in our country.
We are gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. One more time. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of deportees, and we are singing, singing for families together. Keep our families together. And we are singing, singing for their lives. Keep the families together. And we are singing, singing for their lives.